Good evening, everyone. I'm Lenny Steiner. I'm a member of the Foundation Board of Directors at the library, and I'm thrilled to be introducing our wonderful speaker tonight. Please take a moment to silence your cell phones. I would like to remind you that no flash photography is permitted during tonight's event. Following the event, a book signing will take place upstairs in the lobby. And don't forget that most of our author events are also offered as podcasts at freelibrary.org. Welcome to the Free Library of Philadelphia. From its award-winning author event series to its internationally renowned Fleischer collection of orchestral music and Drinker choral music library, the Free Library is dedicated to advancing literacy, guiding learning, and inspiring curiosity through thought-provoking programs and life-changing resources. Many of the library's most beloved programs and services are made possible only with the help of private support. Please make a gift of whatever amount you are able to help the Free Library transform lives. You can do so online at freelibrary.org/support. It's now my very great pleasure to introduce the fabulous Deborah Voigt, one of the opera world's most treasured and versatile sopranos. In a celebrated career spanning over 30 years, her powerful voice and commanding stage presence have won great acclaim, a devoted following around the world, and many awards, including Philadelphia's Luciano Pavarotti Vocal Competition and the Verdi Competition. Among her most notable roles are Strauss's Ariadne and Salome, Wagner's Isolde and Brünnhilde, Verdi's Amelia, and Puccini's Minnie. Her many recordings have become standards for critics and opera lovers alike. Not only has her majestic voice made her fans love her, but so has the soprano's profound feeling for texts and subtleties of musical style, not to mention her genuine sense of humor, praises the Wall Street Journal. In her new memoir, Call Me Debbie, True Confessions of a Down-to-Earth Diva, Ms. Voigt tells the story of her religious upbringing in Illinois, her international artistic career, and her triumph over the personal demons that define her as profoundly as her greatest performances. It is a deeply touching book that narrates some of this amazing anti-diva's journey, and we get to know her in a way we never could do watching her perform. Indeed, quite the opposite. It is an honest, brave, and utterly absorbing story, and we come to understand that the depth of emotion which informs her performances is as genuine and true as her glorious voice. She will be interviewed tonight by Willow Carey, manager of donor relations of WHYY. Willow is also a beloved and longtime supporter of the Free Library and a music lover who is on the board of Opera Philadelphia. It's wonderful to have them here with us tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Deborah Voigt and Willow Carey to the Free Library.
Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us on this night. And it is so wonderful to have. Actually, can we call you Debbie?
No, you must call me Madame. Well, I have to apologize to you. I have laryngitis, and so I am not going to be able to sing for you tonight. And I'm very sorry. I owe you one. If you can find where I live, I'll sing in my living room. But yeah, ooh, Microphones. No, it's fine. So I apologize. Okay, take it away, Willow.
Well, I just first want to welcome you back to Philadelphia, where you won a gold medal in a Pavarotti voice competition.
I'd forgotten about that. You're right.
It's in the book.
Probably in the early chapters. You know, there's this big, well, anyway, we'll get to it, I'm sure.
Well, you have had a brilliant career, and yet you've battled internal demons that resulted in food addiction, obesity, alcohol addiction, codependent relationships, almost suicide.
What a mess.
Your book is an amazingly candid story of an incredible journey, really filled with professional highs as well as personal lows. And I just think it took such courage to write that story. And we want to thank you for doing that. What inspired you to tell all?
Well, it was a really long process, the idea of writing a book. I, as is known in the book and part of operatic lore, was fired for being too fat, and subsequently, not as a result of that, but did drop a bunch of weight. And at that time, the idea of writing a book came up. And I had achieved a certain level of success and notoriety, and it seemed like the right time. So began to think about it, began to talk to potential publishers, and something in the back of my mind just said, you know, it's not the right time. And looking back, of course, I realized that my emotional life was about to go in a major bad place. And so writing the book would not have been a good time then. And also, just in terms of my operatic career, Brünnhilde was still to come, Fanciulla was still to come, and I thought, you know, let's just put it aside for now. And I did. And then those mountains were crossed, and it seemed like the right time again. Picked it up again, started the process, and just had to stop. Things just got too complicated, and I had to say, okay, I have got to put it all down, everything, and go and take care of myself, and then we'll finish the book. And that's basically what happened. And through the course of writing it, I just tried not to edit myself along the way. When I would say, I can't talk about that. No, I can't tell them that. I would say, okay, you don't have to. Just put it down. Just get it out. And selfishly, it's been a very cathartic experience in that sense, because I have gotten it out. You know me as well as you probably ever will, and maybe ever want to. But, you know, it's all out there. As the journalist that I talked to earlier today said, well, there's no more secrets. You can be assured that when someone writes about you, you will have told the worst about yourself. Something to be said for that.
Well, I don't think there is any woman who has had no concerns about her weight, her body, or her sense of self-worth. So I think this is a book that will have resonance and really speaks to so many of us, all of us, in so many ways. You describe your childhood where so much of your addiction started, and even singing as a child caused trepidation.
Well, I don't know, trepidation. I can just imagine what my parents thought, because my mother sang, but she, was nothing professional. And here they have this child who, at the drop of a hat, throws on a hat, and any bit of costume she can get, and is dancing around constantly and singing constantly, me very, very, and my parents were just, what is this? Who is this child? Where did she come from? So I think they were, a little taken aback. And if you've read the book or will read it, you'll know that my parents came from a very conservative Baptist background. And so they were very, very determined that my musical tastes would stay in line with what they thought was appropriate. What they didn't understand was that they had a little girl who wasn't interested in singing the music of Kiss or, Def Leppard or anything like that. I was into Bobby Sherman. How dangerous is that? And, Donny Osmond, who, by the way, I got to meet finally. Thank you, God. Forget Brünnhilde. I saw Donnie. It's all good.
Wow. Well, you have such a gift, and I love the first chapter of your book where you talk about realizing that you were here to sing. Would you tell us about that? Because that's something that really kept you on your path as an artist.
You want me to talk about that particular
Well,
moment?
if you only
Well, you know what?
want to.
I feel like
It was a realization.
it was a realization. Okay. I had this experience when I was 13. Yeah, 13, 14. I have to read the book again to find out. And I was laying in my bedroom very early one morning. I can see my room as though it was yesterday. I can feel the time of day, the lighting in the room, and I heard someone say, "You are here to sing." I'm getting goose flesh just thinking about it. I was a very faith-filled young woman. I remain one today. So that voice resonated in me, and I knew that this was not random, even in that moment. And I didn't tell anyone about it until for 10 years. And then I told a teacher of mine, and I have never talked about it publicly until right now. And I don't know why. You know, why is that? Why something that was so intimate, and so maybe that's why. Maybe because the minute you admit to a certain group of people, sometimes, that you are someone who reads her Bible and believes in Jesus, that doesn't mean that you don't have tremendous gay friends and that you want them to get married, that you will sing at their wedding. You know, we get so marginalized, and so there's this, hesitance for me to say, yes, this is what I believe. I heard God talk to me, and he told me, you are supposed to sing, girl, and that's what I have done for the next 40 years. And I think it's the only thing that has kept me on track. One thing I learned about myself, a lot of things I learned, but when I reread the book, when I went back and forth with editing it, I have such an amazing amount of resilience, and I didn't know that about myself. Despite, all right, whose is it? Aha. We'll wait. Go ahead. The rest of you better check your phones, because the next one sings. Well, why don't we, give me the phone.
Okay. Let that be a warning to the rest of you.
Exactly. I have been known to make people get up and sing now. Well, you tell Eric to call you back. Anyway, where were we?
Well, your resilience.
Yes, I'm resilient.
Point in fact. Oh, well, I was thrilled to hear you sing the role of Sieglinde in Wagner's Die Walküre at the Met. And it has remained for me one of my favorite opera memories. So
Mine
beautiful,
too.
so heartfelt. Well, you wrote that that role had particular resonance for you. Why?
Well, poor Sieglinde, she's just in this awful, awful house with this awful man who treats her terribly, probably knocks her around. She cooks, she cleans, but there's something in her that you cannot knock down. She gets up. And I could really relate to that. And she just has all this hope, and in this guy comes stumbling into her house, and she doesn't raise up in fear. She goes to help him and immediately starts to see herself in him. And I just think that's just something about her. And of course, her music's beautiful. And I was singing with Placido Domingo, not a bad way to spend your night. In fact, I think that season or one season, right around that time, I had 2 operas at the Met. I did Die Valkyrie in the first half of the season, I did Aida in the second half, and I had Placido in one and Luciano in the other.
Tell us how they were different, to sing with.
Well, when you sang with Placido, you were on a level playing field. He was in the game with the same determination that you were. He didn't expect any more praise. It was really about the ensemble participation. With Luciano, and I don't think this is Luciano's fault, if that's the right word, but it was really the Luciano show. And that may have more to do with the people around him than it did Luciano. But he was Luciano Pavarotti, so, I was Debbie Voigt singing Aida with him, but nobody was buying the ticket to see Debbie Voigt then.
But you said he had a rather disconcerting habit of disappearing.
Oh, yeah, he did.
Maybe others too, I don't know.
He's the only I could. Well, he had a few habits, and I thought some of them stayed out of the book. I was thinking, oh no, did I? I thought I left. You scared me. Well, my heart's going. Yeah, he did. We were singing Ballo together, and Act 2, we're in the gallows. I've sung the aria, and we're doing the duet. And if you know this particular duet, she sings quite a bit by herself, then he sings quite a bit. Okay, so he finishes his part, I'm singing, oh, no, 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 no. I'm thinking, wow, I feel kind of alone here. No, he's not there. He's not there. And I look off in the wings, and there's Luciano in the wings doing this. He had gone to get a drink of water in the middle of the of the duet. And I thought, is he coming back? Is he... I don't remember, a vamp till ready portion. But to his credit, he came on in time to sing, ass first, as though he was looking for the conspirators. No, they're not there. He did it the first time. He did it at the Royal Opera House. We did it there, and then we came to the Met, and we did it there, and he disappeared again. So, but he came back. So, and he's Luciano Pavarotti. You let him do anything.
Let me ask you: are there other roles that you've sung that felt like they fit emotionally, the way Sieglinde did?
Oh, I think a lot of them have. And if they don't, I try to make them because I find that, okay, I sing Salome. I don't know what it's like to be 16 anymore. I don't know what it's like to have a head presented to me. But I do know what it is like to be a frustrated 16-year-old who wants something so much and she can't have it. They won't let me have it. She doesn't. I understand that. I understand what it feels like to want a man very badly that I can't have. She experiences that. So I try to find things in all of these characters that I can identify with. When I talk about it in the book, when I was singing the Kaiserin for the first time, the Kaiserin is having trouble with her husband, basically, and when you get it all down to brass tacks. And at the time that I was singing my first one, my husband and I were going through some problems. So I know what that feels like, and Minnie in Fanciulla. Oh, just the best character, just the best. And she's a Bible girl, so I get that. She loves these men, and she cares for them, and she takes care of them. And I have a very innate sense of wanting to take care of other people to my own detriment. So I understand that. And I think that this is what's hard when you look at a young singer, because they don't have those years of experience or emotional experiences to draw on. And I did a master class with a mezzo, a young mezzo, 23 something, and she's singing Carmen. And all the notes are right, and the language is good, but there was just no, that in it. And I said, what you need to do is go to Spain and have a love affair. Put the book down, leave it alone, and come back. And this was in Chicago, and I think that all of the patrons were sort of like, did she just say to go and have an affair? I hope she did. She'd be a really much better singer now.
Oh, well, your book has so many delicious moments and insights into singers, conductors, even prompters. And I was really moved by what you wrote about James Levine, and just wondered if you talk about that relationship and why he is so special.
Well, every singer will say that he's special. And the reason is that he likes us, for one thing. He likes singers. He loves singers. Not every conductor does. But he does. And he understands us technically, how our voices work. He's able to communicate that. And maybe more importantly, he understands us emotionally. And he knows when something's not working well. These performances of Aida that we're talking about, somebody said to me recently, they played your Aida and it sounded so beautiful. And I thought, oh, I can't imagine it, because it was always a nightmare for me. I would sweat through it, and never again. And I would get to the O Patria Mia, and I'd go up to that high C, and I would just be so full of fear. And we were in an orchestra rehearsal, and it didn't go well. And then we did it again, and it didn't go well. So he's noodling around with the orchestra. And I felt he was just giving me a moment, to regroup. And then I heard him say to the orchestra, she feels a little, uncomfortable. We're going to try this again. And I thought, what a mensch. He knew. And he also knew that if I didn't nail that in that rehearsal, I would never get past it. Psychologically, that note would be a hurdle every time. And he just knows how to breathe with you and phrase with you, and I was very fortunate to experience him at the time that I did.
Wow. Well, you mentioned the awful incident about the little black dress when Covent Garden dismissed you for a signature role because of your size.
Right.
But it gave you the time and the money to undergo gastric bypass surgery, which you've been contemplating.
Yes, for a long time.
And afterwards, you said that you really had to learn how to support your voice in new ways. How is that?
Well, when you are a person as heavy as I was at that time, you don't have to think about support at all. You take a breath, and all of that weight just automatically engages the entire musculature of your body, and the sound just goes boing right out over the orchestra. So I didn't have to think about it. I had to think about it, but I had a naturally placed voice from the time I was a little girl. I didn't go through that breathy stage that a lot of junior high, early high school women in particular go through. I was always very focused, always in the mask. If anything, I had to round it out. And my weight did a lot of the support work. So when the weight started to go, every 20 pounds or so, I'd have to say, I don't feel like I'm connected to my body. And then I went through a whole phase where I was overdoing, because I thought, well, there's not all this weight on me, so I've got to really support. And then it, just truncated. It took a lot longer than I thought it would to figure out what I was doing. I'm grateful that I had the technique that I had. If I hadn't had even that solid, I would have been in some serious trouble.
Can you tell us about the phone call you received after that from Luciano?
My phone rang at about 1 or 2 in the morning, and I'm thinking, who's calling me? You know, hello, please hold for Signor Pavarotti. And I'm, Jack, is that you? You know, very funny. And suddenly I hear, hello, Davy. And it was Luciano. And he said, I want to talk to you about the surgery you had. And I said, okay. And he was thinking about having this surgery himself, and he wanted to know, he said, so you don't eat anymore? And I said, no, it's not that, Luciano, I eat. This is not a cure. It's a tool. You'll have to change your diet forever. And I mean, he was very sweet to be calling. He said, can you refer the doctor? I said, you're Luciano Pavarotti. I think it's safe to say you can go anywhere you want if you decide to have this. But it was a very sweet conversation, and I was very touched that he called me. I would never tell anybody that they should have an operation, and sadly he died not too long after that of pancreatic cancer. But yeah, he struggled with his weight. Luciano went up and down just like the rest of us. He really struggled.
Well, thinking about your career and I would say culminating certainly in Brünnhilde, in The Ring, what's next?
Well, actually, I have a new role. I'm doing The Merry Widow in Detroit. And thank you. I think she's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it. Immediately after the tour, I'm doing a couple of performances, well, one for sure, maybe 2 performances of a one-woman show called Voigt Lessons that was written for me by Terrence McNally. Yes, that one. That Terrence McNally.
You'll have to come back.
And we just may. Or you'll have to come up there. But yeah, it's... the genesis of it was that Francesca Zambello, who's a friend of mine, and I were talking about recitals and how difficult it is to sustain recital series anymore, and that, it's really those of us who are successful opera singers that have a recital career, and how to redefine them or to reshape them. And she said, I think you should do a one-woman show. Well, okay. And she said, I think we should ask Terrence McNally to write it. And I thought, he's the Terrence McNally who wrote Masterclass, and he said yes. So Terrence and I went off to the MacDowell Colony, which is the oldest artist colony in the United States, and it was basically like being at camp for 10 days. And they bring you you have everybody's communal breakfast, take your dishes to the sink together, then they bring you a picnic basket to whatever cottage you're rehearsing in, and then at the end of these 10 days, you put on whatever it is that you've prepared. And I had been keeping a song list of just songs that I loved, and they were very random, from The Carpenters' A Song for You, to a Brahms lead, to a spiritual. And at the end of the week, we had a show. And I've done it at the Glimmerglass Festival, which Francesca runs, a couple of times a few years ago. And I did a performance of it in Boston, and it's going to make its New York premiere on February 26th. I'm excited about it. I'm very proud of it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Good. You also mentioned mentoring young singers. Is that...
Well, I'm the artist in residence with Washington National Opera, and I do master classes when I can. I'm not really sure that I want to teach full-time, certainly not yet. I don't know if I want to be responsible for someone's vocal technique. I think a mentoring position probably would be better for me. I think I have more to say to a young person in terms of their lives and what life could be like, or what life will be like, and some of the things that they might consider if they really think that they want to have a career, and what a career looks like. Because I have been extraordinarily blessed to have the career that I've had. This is very unique. This doesn't happen to very many people. And I see these young people with their eyes just, I want to be an opera singer. And I try to talk to them about what that's going to mean. And yes, it's going to be wonderful, and it's going to have tremendous paybacks, but it's also going to be a lifetime of study, travel, do it again, study, travel. And if you have a career that lasts more than 10 years, then you have to kind of reinvent yourself over and over again, to have new audiences, to have a recital life, to have a concert life, to have a private life. If you want to have children, that's another whole thing. I mean, it's just, there's a lot to it. And to realize that there are all sorts of careers to be had. Is it that you want to be a singer, or you want to be in music? So I think probably a mentoring position. I'm also very interested in the administrative side of opera companies and arts organizations, and to that end, I'm working as the Save the Met broadcast ambassador, because we are in potential danger of losing the Met broadcasts, the radio broadcasts. It is astronomically expensive, and we take it for granted. So there's my little plug.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think where so many of us got our awareness and our love of opera. I know that's certainly true for me and for many others.
Yes.
So we wish you the best of luck
Thank
with
you.
that.
Thank you.
And we love you on stage and backstage, too, as host of the Mets HD broadcasts.
Thank you very much.
Wonderful.
I was one of the first people to host. Actually, they tried to have an anchor person, like a normal anchor person, host them. And it just didn't work because they knew nothing about opera, and there was nothing, But I hosted one of the first ones, and our principal lady's dresser said to me, some of you saw the one on Saturday, I was the host, and she said, "You really love these, don't you?" I said, "I love it. I just love it. It's so much fun, and it's so easy, and, it's just a hoot." And she said, "You said after the first one you'll never do it again." But they've worked out a lot of the kinks since then, so.
So you forgot
And
that.
I don't care so much, you know what I mean? I just don't care. Just have a good time, whatever. The biggest problem Saturday was getting Vittorio Grigolo to shut up in time. That was it.
Right.
Because the stage manager's there, and they've got the ear to the truck, and the truck's going, wrap it up, and he's going, so I finally said, enough, and then I look at Twitter, and Twitter's saying, she cut him off. But they're not standing there watching the person go like, wrap it up, and then go, get the hook.
Oh, that's great. We're going to remember all this when we see you next.
When you see Vittorio, you know what she said about you? Chatty.
Wow. Well, now it's my pleasure to turn over things to all of you to ask your questions. And as usual, please raise your hand and wait until you get a microphone to start talking so that we can hear what you say. Wow. Maybe on side right here and back there. Right here?
Do you have a private life? Do you have a husband and children? That wasn't even touched upon.
You haven't read the book, have you?
No, I haven't.
She's had a week. Let's go. I'm kidding. No. No, yeah, I have a private life. I do not have a husband. I am very single. Now that's a first.
This is just the start.
It's a wide age range on the low side. Sorry. Oh, that was really bad. Seriously, though, yes, I have a private life. I have very good friends. I have a dog that is better than any boyfriend. Yeah, life, it's pretty good right now. I'm not sure I want another husband, though, so.
Yeah. Oops. That's okay.
Deborah, I wanted to ask.
Call me Debbie.
Yeah, call you Debbie. Call you Debbie. I wanted to ask a Philadelphia-specific question, and I'm going back, 30 years or so ago, and I'm referring.
Well, we better ask that other woman because you're going to talk about
the snowstorm.
the snowstorm.
Yes, exactly. Well, actually, I'd rather have you talk about the snowstorm. But I guess what I'm just curious about is, did you ever get a sense of how significant that was in sort of Philadelphia music lore, like that notion? It's like, I'm trying to think of an example. It's like Wilt Chamberlain scored 100 points in a basketball game, but it was a very small stadium. There was only about 8,000 people there. But there's affidavits from 40,000 people who insist that they were there that night and they saw it. So,
There weren't that many people there that night.
and that's why I'm sort of interested if you later got a feel for how significant that event became in sort of your love of music, Maestro Sabalish's and the orchestra history, that sort of thing. I'm curious if that later connected with you.
Well, it did because we're talking about concerts with Maestro Savalish. It was Act 2 of Die Walküre. I don't remember what else it was on the program. Tannhäuser. Okay. And, of course, supposed to be with the orchestra. And we had a horrendous snowstorm. Just terrible. And basically the orchestra couldn't get in. And so they were going to cancel the concert. And Maestro Savalish said, no, we're not canceling the concert. We're going to open it up to the public. Come in your snow gear. And he sat at the piano, and we sat kind of around him, and we did it with the piano. And he would stop during the orchestral sections that would have been playing out, and he talked about the characters and what was happening and just covered the landscape, basically. And it was really a unique evening, and I knew that it was such because it ended up being released on a CD. And I'd forgotten about that until I was speaking to somebody earlier. It was a pretty magical evening. Of course, we also thought we'd have the night off, but anyway.
I'm glad you mentioned that because that is part of the Philadelphia lore and the orchestra lore. It's wonderful. Let's take a question over on this side.
I'd just like to know if you have a favorite opera house.
Well, I'm pretty partial to the Met. I think, when the Met is on their game, and they're like every other opera house, they have their nights, they have their productions, but I don't think anybody can do it quite as spectacularly as the Met can. Just the sheer size of it is just something wonderful, and I feel that way when I'm either side of the orchestra pit. It's just a magnificent place to sing, and I built my career there, so I love it.
Yeah, we had a question on the aisle right here before, and then maybe right here in the front row afterwards.
I was just wondering if you felt any kind of discrimination as a woman when you were fired for the little black dress, when Luciano Pavarotti could get as big as he wanted and still continue.
Well, now, sister. Yo, you tell it. Yeah. Absolutely. And I still do. And I remember a review I'm not going to say because then you'll be able to identify the characters in play, but I went to get up off the ground, and it was when I was still a very heavy woman, and as happens to a size 5 girl, on up the dress sizes, I caught my heel on my dress. It happens. Suddenly the review says, Miss Voigt, who struggled to get up off the floor because of her size. No, it was because she stepped on her dress, just like Kathleen Battle could do. That was really a bad example. And then they said about the tenor who was also a very big man, he had the shoulders of a linebacker. That's what it is. And we got to accept it. Well,
I was going to ask about, because I
Bless
think
you.
gender discrimination based on physical presentation is very rampant.
Here's the thing.
And when
There are fewer of them, too. There are far more sopranos and mezzo-sopranos than there are male singers, right? So they can afford to discriminate against the ladies. They can't against the men.
There's another question back on the aisle on the left, and then we'll get to some of the center questions.
Yes, thank you. Your long career august career in opera, you've seen it change. Maybe we mentioned a little bit about the simulcast. How do you feel that having the super titles, the simulcasts, don't you see a new buzz and interest in opera that's so exciting? I mean, do you see that, or do you see it more like, wow, we wish we could fill the hall?
Well, we all need to fill our halls, no matter how big the hall is. A 300-seat hall needs to be filled just as much as a 3,800. That being said, that 3,800-seat hall is more challenged because of its size. I think that all of these media things, devices, and things that we have access to now help to certainly broaden people's knowledge about opera or their opportunity to experience it. I'm not sure that the math is in yet to say that what they're experiencing is making them buy a ticket to the theater. I think we're still trying to determine that. But then again, there's that, person out in Oklahoma who, not picking on Oklahoma, but that can't get to the Met, can't get, and they have that opportunity. And that's wonderful for them. And it's wonderful for the singers. And they don't tell us to act any different but I do have young people say to me, should I take acting lessons? Yes, you should take acting lessons. Should I take acting for the television screen or for the movie screen? No. No, because that's a very small percentage of singers that are going to end up in that arena. And what they have to remember is that to sing properly requires a certain embouchure, meaning shape of mouth, and it's different for every singer. And you can't vary that. This is important for Deborah Voigt's sound, this. This might be pretty on the screen, but I'm going to sound like a chicken with my head cut off like that. So I tell them not to worry about it. I'll tell you what, you put a line together in another language, act, walk across the stage, breathe, do it for 10 years, and then we'll talk about a movie screen.
Very good. In the center here?
A personal question which everybody is dying to ask you.
Wait. Okay.
The key to a wonderful performance, I've always found, is the chemistry between the major male and Deborah Voigt. You want to talk
What's he going to ask me?
You want to talk about some of your favorite, or where you really have chemistry, and which of course makes the opera even more exciting. Male, I'm talking about.
Well, I was going to give you some ladies, but okay. Well, Placido and I always had a lot of chemistry together. Oh, J. Hunter Morris. Right? Sizzle, sizzle. And, and it's so funny because once the curtain goes down, he's kind of like my brother, and it's like, oh. But on stage, oh my gosh. Well, that's enough.
There you go. We have a number of questions right in the middle here.
Lady in the red. Oh, she didn't have her hand up. Okay.
I thought.
I wanted to know what you thought of the monstrosity that Robert Lepage gave you for the ring and which made people tumble off. How do you sing when you're up at that altitude and be able to do what you have to do?
The machine.
I sing up there the way I sing here. Now, you know, it was challenging. There's no question about it. But I thought it was wonderful, but I'm easy. I'm easily entertained. I like new things. I didn't think it was a monstrosity. I thought it got better when the cycles came up, and when I mean, what they were doing has never been done. You know, I mean, cut them some slack, people. You know, it was something that you're not going to see it anywhere else. You will never see anything like that in any other opera house in this world. It will not happen. Now, you may not want to see it again, and you don't have to, maybe, but also I would challenge you, because I think it may come back. So, before and if you have an opportunity to see it again, or before you watch or listen to the Grammy Award-winning CDs, or watch it, there's a documentary that was made on it called Wagner's Dream. And it's really, really helpful in understanding the difficulty of that mechanism. It was scary to be on her. I called it a her because she's a bigger diva than any diva that was in the room. She weighed more. She was more expensive. She was certainly more temperamental. And she had all us pretty bits on her all night long, so... But yeah, yeah.
Very good. There's somebody else in the center there. I think we had a whole cluster of people with the sweater.
The lady next to the red sweater.
Yes.
With the glasses.
Okay. Hello.
Oh. Okay.
It'll keep going.
It's going to go to you next.
Yes.
All right. Forgive me. I'm going to ask about someone other than you. I have loved seeing you sing and be hostess on many occasions, including Saturday. And my two questions about Saturday's performance of Tales of Hoffmann. One is, why does the new production switch the second and third female, and Antonio and Giulietta, from the original score? That's one question. Second question, you introduced the tenor, whose name I don't think I can pronounce correctly, and what a daunting role it is, and that this is the role that catapults tenors to great fame if they make it. And I wonder if there was a lot of discussion after the performance about whether he made it.
First question, ask the Met. Second question, I was home by then.
Okay. Let's just pass it back to the... Oh, you have one. Good. And then we'll go over on the aisle.
Hi. You, go with your question.
I just wanted to ask what your top piece of advice would be for aspiring young opera singers.
Oh. I would say, are you...
Somebody said have an affair.
Have an affair. Okay, keep a journal because you might write a book. No, I would say make sure that you want to sing more than anything else on this earth. That's what you were put here to do, because it's too hard otherwise. It's just too hard. And keep your heart and your mind open to singing all kinds of music, that maybe you're meant to, I don't know, be a church soloist, teach, just to be open, not to go into school thinking, I have to sing at the Met or I won't have a life. Because that's, as I said earlier, it's a very rare experience. I hope I didn't disappoint you. Sorry.
One question about being open. Have you ever considered singing in another genre, such as, say, country western?
Well, interestingly enough, my legal name is Debbie Joy Voigt. It was never Deborah, but I thought that Debbie Joy Voigt sounded like she was singing at the Grand Ole Opry. And so I changed it to Deborah. But I think if I could have chosen, I would have wanted to be a country star. It's the music that I listen to the most in my car. I can understand it. I can, like the voices. But really? I can find me a cowboy and we'll just go.
Well, a lot to look forward to for you.
Yes.
And for all of you, Debbie is going to be up in the lobby shortly to sign copies of her wonderful book, Call Me Deborah.
Debbie.
True. Well, she does talk about that too. But True Confessions of a Down-to-Earth Diva. You heard it here.
Thank you.